Jenny, do you want to share the Jamboard? So this is our agenda for today. And just so everyone knows, we are recording, okay? So
Okay.
we're going to be recording to share. Sorry, my vacuum is in the background.
Oh.
We're going to be recording to share with people who can't be here today. So if you don't want your face in the recording, you can stay with your camera off. But
No,
while
okay. Yeah.
Say that again,
Okay.
Paul?
I said it's okay. I'm fine with that, but I can only stay for a short while because I have other stuff to do too.
Okay.
So I stay for a while, and then I'm looking forward to get a mail or something.
Yes, we are going to be sharing a recording with the entire group. While we give people another few minutes to come in to the meetings, we still have people joining. I just sent a link in the chat to this Jamboard, and you can, if you are able to share maybe some things that excited you about our project call. We really loved hearing from everyone, and Jenny's demonstrating. Jenny's demonstrating a little bit about Jamboard. If you've never used it, it's open to everyone. And it's just a way of you participating in a Zoom format where only one person can be unmuted at a time. So the link is in the chat, and you should be able to go and share. We're gonna wait another few minutes. Again, there's still people joining. Look at all you smart technological people. And I'm keeping everyone muted for the moment, just for ease. Jamboard's really cool. You can also draw on it. Hi, and welcome to the people who just joined. I'm going to send the link to the Jamboard in the chat again, in case you didn't get it. And you can doodle if you want.
Nice doodles, you all.
Okay, we're gonna wait another minute or two.
This is getting out of hand. Just kidding.
Right. Hi, welcome to the people who just joined. We're happy to have you here. Hi, Julie.
Hello.
Hi, Lance. Hi, Sydney. Hi, Sabine. Hi, Letitia.
There's a link in our chat with our Jamboard. We're just adding some responses to the prompt.
Oh, don't delete your face. I like it. Okay, we'll wait one more minute and see people are going to join.
I'll keep adding some of the themes that I saw.
Yeah, we really appreciate everyone's responses to the Google form. Okay, the face is developing. I like the face. Okay. So it's 10:05. We're going to return to the Jamboard later in the meeting as a way to brainstorm together. But now let's get to some introductions. Jenny. Yep. So our agenda today is right here. And now we're going to keep going, and there's going to be more opportunities for interaction. So in the chat, can you please share your name and pronouns, your location, and your disciplines? So my name.
I'm just adding mine, sorry.
And we're getting a couple more people in the meeting. Just to give everybody a way of saying hi. Some of you may know each other, some of you may not know one another. And then Jenny and I are going to introduce ourselves as you continue to do this. So, who is Lifetime Guarantee? You're looking at them. So I think many of you know who we are. We've met a lot of you. We're really excited to keep working with you. I'm Kristen.
I'm Jenny.
And we have been working with each other for the past 11 years as collaborators.
We went to school together at Alfred University, where we both were exploring performance in addition to sculpture. And it emerged into more cooperative community projects with some central themes. Kristen?
Yeah, themes of disrupting traditional methods of labor, our gender roles, and then also using a lot of humor. One of our familiar projects at Iron events is the Harder Barter Market.
Oops, sorry. I work as an art administrator at Salem Artworks that is in Salem, New York. My practice right now is mostly drawing and painting, but I have a background in metal casting and ceramics. And I've also always incorporated performance into the work.
So I have a background as an arts professor and a research-based studio practice in sculpture, papermaking, installation, metal arts, cooperative public art, and I serve on the board of the Mid-South Sculpture Alliance. I've also worked in collaboration with other artists, musicians, and writers.
One of the inspirations behind this exhibition is a project that Kristen and I have both been involved in called Salem to Salem. It's an international exchange program between Salem Artworks and Salem, Germany, that brings together artists from different disciplines to see what will happen in 3 weeks. So there's no specific theme, but by bringing artists together with different ideas and ways of working, there's been these very extravagant and big collaborations combining video and sound and music, visual art and performance. And this project has taken place both in Germany and in the US. And the work really varies based on that specific site. And I think Kristen and I were interested to see how we could create an opportunity for artists to come together to make work in an exhibition.
So we proposed this project with the wonderful planners of the 9th International Conference on Contemporary Cast Iron Art. I've been lucky enough to go to the conference in Latvia and in Pennsylvania and Scranton, where it was the last 2 cycles. And Jenny, you can share how you were involved.
I've been to the Kidwelly conference, which was about 12 years ago, and then the conference that was in Scranton.
So we proposed this project to create that collaborative dialogue through art making that we both really love participating in. So the idea behind the exhibition is to foster collaboration between international artists, writers, and musicians to create artworks under the theme of Wunderkammer, or cabinets of curiosity. Many of you are probably familiar with this historic, I don't even know, like Cabinet of Curiosities is something you probably learned about in art history class because it was the precursor to modern museums. It's a very open prompt for artists. It could, because it's a collection of curious items, and that's what artwork is. So the exhibition will feature the collaborative interdisciplinary artworks that include iron elements. So people who are working with iron know that you can use iron in many, many different ways, from rust prints to performance, from sculptural objects to ephemeral photos of like an ephemeral performance piece. We want to highlight the diverse practices of contemporary international cast iron artists by fostering collaboration between artists and communities to encourage cross-cultural dialogue. So thank you all for being here, because you're an essential part of making this happen. So in the proposal guidelines that we sent to everyone, we talked a little bit about the history of Wunderkammern. They originated in the 16th century, mostly wealthy people, because you could afford to have like your little fun cabinets of things. It's a collection of unusual, unique, and rare specimens, artworks, books, and other assorted items, and it creates a sense of wonder in the visitor. This past summer, I was, again, very, very, very lucky to be in Germany working with one of my collaborators, Susan, and working also at a residency. And I was able to travel to Berlin to visit the site here. So the conference site is really exciting. It's on the banks of the Spree. Wait, go back one, Jenny.
Okay. Sorry, I don't think I can.
Use the arrows.
Here we go. There you go.
So Berlin is very large, and you can see on the map on the left, the location of the conference site is in the southeast region of the city along the Spree. It's going to be held at the Hochschule für Technik und Wirtschaft Berlin. Pardon my German pronunciation, Germans who are here. Thank you for your understanding. It's a very short walk from the university to the Moving Poets Novilla, where the exhibition is going to be. And it's over this walking bridge. And there's lots of opportunities here for installations. Susan Rower, who is the conference planner, just says, like, let us know far enough ahead of time and we'll make it happen. So there's really a lot of open opportunity here for outdoor pieces, indoor pieces, pieces that engage with the landscape of the conference site, and pieces of various scale for both indoor and outdoor exhibition. So this is the aerial view of the Novilla. Novilla was, it's a really interesting historic site. It was a villa that was owned by a Jewish couple, and now is the host site for the Moving Poets, which is a collaborative group of poets. They also have a site in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so you see that walking bridge, right? And then this is like the courtyard where that car is. The next slide shows that spot. And there's a lot of outdoor areas in the Novilla, at the Novilla. So there's great opportunity there. They've had iron pours there before. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you would definitely want to let us know as soon as possible. We hadn't planned on having there be a pour because the exhibition opens before the conference begins, but that can certainly be part of the exhibition. Okay, keep going, Jenny. This is the plan that we included in the proposal guidelines. The challenge with the site is that it is a like living place where they have lots of concerts and cultural events. So the event room, the only available space would be on the walls, but the two exhibition rooms and the hallway are dedicated to artwork display. The other thing that's a challenge about the indoor space is that there's a set of stairs that you have to go up in order to get inside. So you really want to think about that weight limit. Jenny and I will be there at the beginning of September to install the show. We are unable physically to lift more than 50 pounds. It's unhealthy. So think about breaking your work down into component parts. And that's also helpful when it comes to shipping. The other exciting thing about this site, though, is that in terms of a Wunderkammer, the photos that I have of the indoor space where there's like a bunch of stuff in it, that's going to be cleared out. The whole novella is under construction. So there's some like little hidey holes, some nooks, some crannies that you might want to think about taking advantage of in your proposal. Like specifically the glass windows or the elevator hallway. There's lots of different spots to surprise people. It's the most traditional space for artwork display, but it also has like these arches, these archways, some windows that could also be incorporated in your plans. Here's some photos with artwork in them. And again, the whole place is under construction when I visited. So when we have our exhibition, there will be it'll be completely done. And please, if you have any questions about the venue, you can put it in the chat. I have my eye on it. All right, so here on the left, that's the event room, and on the right is the green room. And there's two kind of like closet spaces that might be an interesting spot for people. And again, there's stuff in there right now because they're under renovation. These are the photos I had from my visit, but the space itself is really interesting. Like there's a little step up, and then has a beautiful archway. And then the rest of the room is more of a traditional spot. And yes, Stacy, I think there's a possibility to install in the water. And yes, Sabine, they allow ceiling suspended work. Good questions. We have to know about that ahead of time because we have to create kind of like the track in the ceiling, but it's definitely possible.
There's
question.
a suspended piece in this photo to the left, just so you can see it as a reference.
Yeah. So this is the hallway that I was referencing earlier. And I think it's a great framing device. There's a lot of potential here in my house. And then here's the boat. The boat is most likely the best places to install on the boat are this boat deck. Because inside the boat, there's a weightlifting room and like a club for young people. It's like a boat for youths. So it's kind of a unique place. And like Susan was saying that people who don't have a place to stay can just like crash on the boat. So you really want to think about artwork here being probably on the boat deck and attached to the railings to keep it secure.
Durable.
Yeah. But the river in front of it, you can see the walking bridge and the university on the other side. It's a really cool location. I liked it a lot when I visited. There's artist studios across the way, including Olafur Eliasson's studio in Berlin. So there's a lot of art making activity in this area. So they're very open to artists. Yeah, the boat. Here's more photos of the boat. So you could do something along the railing too. That could be a really exciting spot, and in the prow of the boat. I don't know if you want to. I'm really curious to see who would want to work on the boat, but I'm excited to. And to the right of the boat is where the novella is. There's this walking path that runs along the spree that people throughout the city use. So it's a very public location. Okay, Jenny's going to take it away.
Okay, so we have an information packet that is on the website for open calls, and I'm going to go over this very quickly because we want you to go through that packet. The exhibition itself is September 8th through the 25th. Below are the conference dates, when the exhibition closes, and your window for removing artwork. And this is all available in the PDF, so you don't have to write it down. We also, for the pre-exhibition deadline, right now we're offering an information session to help you with the framework of your collaboration. We're asking for proposals of the work that will be submitted to the exhibition on November 15th. So what you will actually create in the show is due November 15th. So you have time to work with other people to develop what exactly you want to do, where you want to do it, now until November 15th.
Doesn't mean the actual objects aren't due November 15th.
No, the proposal.
Yeah, the proposal.
So what you want to create is due on the 15th. We will notify the artist by December 15th. Any questions, and other things that we need to know, we'll contact you before that date. But December 15th is when we'll be finalizing what is going to go into the show, the plans. Final artwork will have to be created between November 15th and May 1st, because we're going to want to get the work to Germany. So you have several months to make the work. And obviously you can communicate with us, because we realize that's a cold time. And so we can work with you.
Another element of this is, I know that some people will be traveling to the EU over the summer, hopefully for different residencies. And so if that's the case, please let us know, because it changes a little bit a deadline. We just think that's the healthiest deadline for people to have in order to ship their work if they're not going to be there over the summer.
Yeah, this is our strong suggestion, and we want you to communicate with us if it doesn't work. Artwork shipping and drop-off deadlines. We have 2 different dates. So if you're further away from the EU, we're asking that you make your shipping plans earlier, so that if there's any issues with customs or any delays, there's a larger buffer time. And then if you're in the EU, we're giving you an extra month, because we're not anticipating as much delays or possible problems. If you're living nearby and want to drop off work, you have a window the first week of September. And again, you can pick up the work the 26th through the 30th, and that is in the packet, all this information. And so for what we're asking of you when you're shipping, the work should be packaged, whether shipped or dropped off. We have some storage available at the Novilla, but we want to be mindful of their use of the space. And so if it's packaged, it will be more secure and easy for them to relocate if they have something going on or need to move it to another site. We really want you to give yourself plenty of time to ship. So we're stressing this over and over, 1 to 3 months before the actual exhibition. USPS and DHL are some shippers that we recommend. And as we get closer, there might be people shipping work, and maybe there's a way that we can do that. People can team up to ship their pieces. Do you want to talk about? But we'll coordinate that closer.
I think if you want to coordinate with other Americans to create a palette, that's another possibility. I don't think Jenny and I are capable necessarily of doing that coordination, but we can
connect people.
We can connect people for sure. So if you're like, I want to ship a palette and I want to join up with other artists to do so, we can connect you all, but I don't think we can manage that, if you all know what I mean.
So as Kristen and I would be installing all of the work, we're asking that it's ready to hang, that the work is easy to assemble with instructions. Think about component parts so that it's easier to handle the pieces. We will like an image of the final piece so that we put it together correctly and in line with your vision. If it's an installation, think about what the footprint is, maybe a diagram, anything to communicate to us how to put your work up. Include hardware. I already said that, instructions. And then how can we contact you during installation? So if you're someone who's traveling and isn't going to answer your home phone, please give us a different way to immediately contact you, or be ready to be checking your email so that if there's an issue, we can communicate with you and not delay installing your work. And then you're going to want to also include return shipping, unless it's something that you're going to stay after the conference and able to pick up your pieces. Do you want to talk about?
Yes, so there's a few international opportunities. I'm going to share the links in the chat. Beyond the conference and the Novilla, There's also the Atelier House Hilmsen residency, and that's run by Hans Moltzberger and Kurt Deerhog. Hans is interested in collaborating as well. They have, and Susan will share this. I'm going to share the links in the, I'm going to share the links in the chat right now. The Hilmsen residency, iron artists in the US might be familiar with this. It's a international like residency with iron and 3D printing. Some people may have participated who are here. I'm not sure if there's any slots open, but I do know that some people who are here are going to go. And if your piece is contingent upon attending, just let us know in your proposal. This is another space where you can go at a different time over the summer. There may not be an iron pour, but you can go and work there as a resident artist in as a paid residency program because you have to pay for lodging. The Culture Works Sculpture Workshop is in Berlin, and you can rent workspace. They have all sorts of different studios there. It's a really cool spot. So if you know you want to construct your piece in Berlin, you can rent studio space there. There's a wood shop, a metal shop, all sorts of different material options there. It's like a really great resource in Berlin. And even if you are there and you have to, like, say you're there, you're dropping off your piece and you have to make something for it, that's a great spot for it. There's a couple of hand tools at the Novilla, but that's really a place where you can make something. Okay. Another place that is a resource that is in the well, I guess it's not in the EU anymore, sad Brexit case, is a Scottish Sculpture Workshop, and they do iron pours right now. Their website isn't live with new residency information. I think since COVID they haven't updated anything. I'm not sure about metal resources. I can ask Susan Isaac. And the other thing that you might want to think about in terms of the Culture Workshop, I don't know what kind of pre-conference workshops there's going to be. So if that, I think that's still being worked out. So that ends up working out well with your piece, or if there are like a group of people who want to do a pour at the Novilla as part of the exhibition, and that's your piece, that's your proposal piece, that would be really exciting and great. Okay, so I don't know if we necessarily are going to require, we're not requiring people to make their piece and ship it, but we do just need to know what your plans are.
Yeah, and we're just trying to create a help you to anticipate your needs before it gets too close to the actual exhibition. The other thing is, if other people have opportunities or suggestions for where somebody could gather to work together or create work, if you want to send it to us, we can share that with the group. I know there's just a variety of residencies and places to rent space. And so you can certainly do that well in advance or closer to the exhibition.
Isaac, I'm looking at the website. They have a plaster and molding workshop and they have a metal workshop, but they don't have casting specifically. They do have 3D scanning. And I think if you need to be 3D printing, we can definitely find a 3D printer over there as well. So the Novilla is also a great resource in terms of connecting to writers and musicians in Berlin. So let us know if that's something you're interested in. And additional support can be provided. We just have to you have to let us know how we can help support you and connect you with people who can do that.
Yeah. Okay, so there's different frameworks for collaboration, and we're not defining for you how you create the work, but just for you to keep in mind as you're discussing with other people, there's collaboration between two people, equal partners in concept and execution from start to end of project. Workload is balanced between partners. That's kind of what Kristen and my collaboration has been. We tend to meet, we plan everything out, and then we have a short burst of time together where we execute. And so we might have to order all of our supplies ahead of time, create all our timelines, delegate things to anticipate that, and then we create the work. We have cooperation where one person is the lead in creating the idea, and then they would have people that collaborate or support that idea and are delegated to. The leader invites participants in their idea. So that one is more leaning toward like a leader. And then a group collaboration is a kind of a combination where there might be one person that's kind of helping to manage the workload, but there's the dynamic use of each person's strengths.
Jenny, there's a question in the chat about whether there's going to be a Salem to Salem this year. Do you know anything about that?
I don't have information about that right now.
Yeah, the Salem to Salem program hasn't run for the past 2 years because of the pandemic. So I think it's still.
We're very hopeful, and if it were to, it would happen in Germany. And so I'm hoping that I'll have more information about that in February, but it will be after proposals are due. But I will keep you posted. So although the theme implies artists will make a literal cabinet, the exhibition is open-ended to artist interpretation. Final artworks can be temporary and are not limited to one discipline or format. We want to see a diversity of art making on display. So I read through everybody's statement of intent in the RSVP, and I really saw a variety of different ideas that people have, desires, past experiences that they've had. And so Kristen and I will share a directory of who's responded and basic information about each person, so that you can connect. We also might be able to partner you with someone. For example, we had somebody who was interested in working with a writer or poet, and we had an inquiry from a poet wondering if anyone was interested in working with a writer. And so we're hoping to make those connections, and then it's really up to you whether it works for your idea to work with that person. Let's see. I saw some people wanted to work with another artist to make an object. Maybe it's combining metal and glass, or different ways, metal and projection. So there's some people that want to make an object. There's some people who want to curate objects together in a collection, but have people make those objects individually. We had about 3 people respond who have worked on large mural projects, and maybe you would want to talk to each other, not necessarily work on the same mural, but exchange ideas about how you've gone about that. There's quite a few people who have led workshops or community projects where they're kind of leading sessions, and then people are making work, and then they're kind of bringing it together, which would fall under the cooperation.
One little note about muralists or shipping things: you can paint on fabric and ship it, and we can hang it up, and like from grommets. Like there's lots of different creative ways to think about how you could ship a large scale piece and maybe just alter what you executed on.
Yeah, so I'm interested in trying to connect people with similar ideas, but I also would just encourage you, once we send the directory, to see what people's ideas are and maybe work with someone a little outside of what you're thinking, just to see what's possible. That's all I had about that.
Okay, so now we don't want to keep talking.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening and for your great questions in the chat. Jenny, can you advance to the next, to the breakout room slide? So we're gonna go into breakout rooms, and for those of you who might not have done this in Zoom before, thanks April. We'll try to connect you with a German writer. We have a couple in mind who might be interested. We're gonna send you all into breakout rooms of about maybe 4 people, and one person should be the note taker, please, because we're gonna ask you to share what you talked about. You can also write the results on the Jamboard, and I'll share the link again in the chat right now. There's another slide on the Jamboard for the breakout rooms. Okay, I'm sharing that. So in the breakout rooms, discuss your past experience with, wait, go back, Jenny.
Oh, sorry. All right.
discuss the benefits and the obstacles of previous collaborations you may have worked in. It might even be as far back as when you were in school and you had to do a group project and you hated every minute. Or it could be like, oh my God, I worked with this great person and I learned things I had no idea I was capable of through that experience. And share that with your group, and then what recommendations you have to make for a successful partnership between 2 or more people. I just want to shoot this out to the group, get a chance for people to meet each other. We have 20 people here, so I'm going to split you into breakout rooms. Thanks, Laura. And I am going to create, let's see, 4 breakout rooms, okay? And they're going to be random. So you're going to get an invitation right now. So just have one person be the note taker. And I'm opening them now. Isaac, everything cool?
Group? Is this our group? This is great.
Well, we're just in the main room.
Oh.
We're in the main room.
I haven't received my invite yet.
Ah.
You're with us. Just kidding.
It shows that you're not in there. Now, how do let's see. I'm going to try and put you in room 4. Did you get an invite?
Now I see room 4. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
I've never been a part of a Zoom with the breakout room, so this is great.
There's one big breakout room.
Okay, and then we'll just state, do you want to do the prompt too? And I could take notes?
Sure.
Well, we should do it too. So we could we can
be exemplars.
Yeah. All right. So actually, I would say the first I'll talk first. The first collaboration that I did was at Alfred and Foundations. We had to create an inflatable object, and so we chose a heart, and it was really interesting. There was like 6 different people in the group, and I want to say I might have taken lead on like tasking, but we did it in a way that we kind of went around in a circle. We each talked about our vision, our theme. We came to a mutual agreement about what we wanted to do, and then we delegated out the task. And I thought that was a really successful collaboration, where everybody did make a single object. They all had a little bit of a part in it. But then I had another collaboration, and I want to say it was like a theater group, and we didn't have the same, it was like a puppet show, and we didn't have the same level of I think engagement. I think people just had different workloads, and so some people did more than others, and I think there was like tension from that, and I think some people didn't feel like as much onus in like what they were doing, and they were frustrated like that it wasn't, maybe they didn't have equal stakes in it. So those were my two collaborations outside of more recent ones.
I'm trying to think of my first collaborations, and I think it would probably be with my family.
Oh, interesting.
Because, right, like if you think about early collaborations, I would guess it would be with my siblings, like having to clean, having to make something together for the house, or like, I mean, even as something like raking leaves, I had to work with my siblings a lot.
Right.
I wouldn't have put that together unless we kind of talked about it today. And then more formally, I don't think I collaborated on art making until maybe I was in grad school, and I was really hesitant, like when I first started working with other people, because I was like, but who made it? I was kind of like obsessive about ownership. And I was kind of like not wanting to let go of ownership, but I think I realized that was like an egotistical perspective, and that ownership isn't as important as, or not that it's not important, but you don't need to own something for it to be a good artwork. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but it's just more like,
Well, I would agree with you that that was what was that was what was successful about the first collaboration. That was what wasn't successful about the second. And I think
shared ownership.
I think talking about what ownership means to each person, and how to act in a way that provides credit equally and or appropriately. So let's say you and I are collaborating, you do 75% of the work, I don't. Would it be fair to say that we had equal part? Probably not. If it wasn't that it was your idea and I helped you with it, but it really was a collaboration, then I think it would be like, how do you discuss, I don't know, how do you accept that reality and discuss it in a way that everyone feels good about it?
Yeah, and I think the benefit of collaboration is that you aren't the only brain.
Right.
You aren't the only person who's making, like you get the shared, I think it takes more time in terms of communicating and creating a shared concept. I think that takes a lot more time than maybe if you're just thinking up something that you're going to make on your own. But then the benefit is that maybe if you use both people's strengths, you're able to execute it more quickly, and or it has more diversity of expression.
So it kind of takes more time initially, but then you have two people working on it, so you theoretically have double the labor. I'm taking notes, it's part of the parameter.
You're the note taker. Also delegating and tasks and like volunteering yourself for the tasks that you want to do versus like being like, well, I guess I'm stuck with this, is really, really important. Like being,
say that again.
So like when tasks are being delegated, like I think that I realized I'm a good leader, but I'm right now in my work, I'm the minute taker at our meetings, and that's really challenging.
In our meetings?
No, not our meetings, but like in my faculty position, I'm taking notes, and I'm like, this is not my strength. I can do it, but it's not something that comes easily to me. Like if I were to volunteer myself for something, it probably wouldn't have been that, but it's at the same time my turn. So like I'm fine with doing it, but just to use an example of like, if you volunteer yourself for a role, like, are you going to be the timeline manager? Are you going to be the person who is the coordinator? Are you going to be the leader in the design and like the fabrication? Who's making what, where? Like that takes a lot of coordination and communication, especially for an international exhibition.
Yeah, I just wrote down basically like understanding individual strengths and weaknesses and be realistic, and then recognize if something isn't working well and deal with it immediately, pretty much. Because I guess, but then if you're stuck in a role, how do you advocate for yourself? Like, for example, you have to do note taking. So then how do you navigate that in a way that you're able to fulfill your obligations? And
I am reframing it that it is a good thing that helps me pay close attention to what's happening. It's a task that is switched between people. So maybe it's a task that doesn't reside with one person. Like next year I won't have to do this. I'm not the note taker forever. I'm like, okay, if I know when my task ends, I'm more willing to do it more positively without like as much resentment. I think another obstacle to working with other people is what they call social loafing, which would be like, oh, I don't like taking notes, so I just won't do it. And somebody else will do it because they feel like responsible for having that task be executed. So the social loaf just like relies on the other people in the group to do the work and like kind of skates by on the bare minimum. That's why in groups, you're not supposed to have groups larger than 4 people.
Oh, really?
Like for in teaching, like when you assign groups, you don't want a group of 8 people, because then like 2 people will just be like, well, I don't really have to do that much in order to be successful.
I think that's how it felt in one of those examples that I brought up, was that some people kept stepping up to do more and more because the work just had to get done, and other people were like, well, I'm really busy, I'm sorry, I can't show up. And everyone's like, well, that sucks, but okay, we're just not going to include you. And then when it's done, we'll like tell you what we accomplished.
Should I give people 5 more minutes or longer?
We have like 45 minutes left technically of the timeline. And so how many groups are there total?
There's
like 5 groups.
No, there's like 3, because some people had to leave. There's
Okay.
4 groups.
So we have 45 minutes left divided by, I mean, we're not going to use all of that, but theoretically, if we gave them all the extra time that we have,
Should I say like 10 more minutes?
they'd get 11 minutes to talk, and we're going to do the Q&A. So hold on. So let's say like there's 4 groups divided by 30 minutes. So we're probably going to give them each about, we'll give them a little bit more time, because there's 4 of them and you and I just finished.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we didn't talk about recommendations. There's one
Can
group
you
that's
go
really
into the
large.
meet? Can you go into the groups and check on
Yeah,
them?
but I don't want to interrupt them. I just want to
Okay.
let them do their thing. You're gonna
Let's
say
give them a little bit more time, and then we
10 more minutes.
Okay.
I just want to send them a message. Okay, to let them know what the time frame is. They didn't tell them what the time frame was going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so they all know.
Okay. Yeah, loafing. I come up. There's like a place that I work where I felt like that happened, and I'd be the person to kind of volunteer myself, but sometimes it's not good because then you never deal with the problem. And I feel like that would be a recommendation to try to create, I don't know, delegate equally.
I think that you can, if you're working with a group of more than 2 people, you
Yeah.
can choose roles if that helps people. Like you could choose a leader, you could choose a secretary, you could choose a worker. Like those are
Treasury.
different roles. Yeah, especially if it's a bigger group, it might be useful for people to understand what they're responsible for.
Mhm.
You could choose like a designer,
Mhm.
and it also kind of depends on where people are located.
Yeah. Yeah, because like even between the 2 of us, there are certain things that you do and certain things I do. And so we don't necessarily deviate because we've gotten familiar, I guess, with our roles. But I feel like we do a good job to check in with each other and make sure that it's still working, that one person's not feeling like they're doing like harder or more work.
Yeah, I don't feel that way in our collaboration. Maybe that's why we keep collaborating.
Yeah. Well, I tried to collaborate once with someone, and we were like almost too similar, where maybe we were both a little decisive and we fed off of each other in our indecisive. And so we would feed off of each other in this indecisive way, and to the point where we didn't ever start. And so at some point we were like, let's stop working together because we're not actually working.
Mhm.
And it was like, maybe, I think we had like 2 or 3 meetings, and then it just didn't go anywhere. So we both called it off. But I had a great collaboration with Laura, who's in this meeting. And it was definitely a cooperative sculpture where she had an idea, she made a maquette, and then I came and assisted. And she welcomed my ideas, and quite a lot were like incorporated into it. And so it kind of started as a cooperation and then led into more of a collaborative approach, where I felt like I had my contribution and she had hers. But it was kind of interesting because it didn't start like I was like, oh, I'm assisting, and then it was like, oh no, we're really collaborating. So that's cool.
I think in teaching, I often will, it's like a cooperative activity where I'm setting up the conditions for them to learn, and they're cooperating with those conditions because of what's the word I'm trying to think of? Conditioning. Like, so you get conditioned your whole life to be a student, I think. And by the time you're in college, you're kind of like, well, this is what students do. And so I just basically
Right.
had to set up the ability for them to make the work, and they're kind of just cooperating with my plans.
Yeah. I just saw an artist talk where somebody was talking about collaborations, but it really, to me, I was like, oh, this is cooperation where they created a framework, they are managing all these people, and they're not in control of the end result in a way that you might think is a collaboration, but but the work wouldn't have been created unless that person had an idea and led all those people to work together to create the piece. And so I wanted to talk to them after and say, you know,
That's real, like,
yeah, is a
yeah,
collaboration
that's
at
all
some point.
collaboration. It's just not this, it's different because like I think this comes about from like the social practice movement in the art world where it's like, ooh, like go outside your studio, don't just be solo in your studio, like include the community. But like that's a really big challenge, especially because a lot of people don't have artistic training. And so like how are you going to include the community? And so people like I've done this with my wreath projects where I include them by taking a casting and they're represented in the final work, but they didn't create that idea with me. I didn't go to the community and say, well, I want to make a sculpture that is not just my own, like let's make it together. Mostly because that takes a huge amount of investment and time, and that doesn't always result in a physical object either. Because what I might find out is that they don't want a sculpture, they want a garden.
Right.
You know, they want to grow food, you know, so like that kind of interferes with my desire to be making sculpture.
Right. Right. And that would be the difference between going into a community and collaborating and everybody having ideas and then collectively saying we're going to pursue this idea because it benefits everyone, versus an artist coming in and saying, my desire is to give this community something. This is my idea. Take it or leave it. And then like, here's the framework if you want to participate. It's not bad. They're just different.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So where are we with time?
There's 4 more minutes left.
Oh, would you like a virtual granola bar?
The people who watch this recording, they'll see what we just talked about, which I think is cool. Hi, people.
And my joke. See, this is how we keep our collaborations interesting, as we, joke around a little bit.
Yeah,
Pretend
and
like
also
we're
like
sitting next to each other when we're not.
dedicated time working together, even if we're not physically together. I think that's another important recommendation. Dedicated time.
Yeah, dedicated time. And I would say determining what you're using that time for ahead of time and not overcommitting. Like, for example, we'll say we're going to work on the outline for this presentation, and then this week we're going to finish it. And often we do get it all done in that one session, but we're anticipating we won't, and we're setting our goal like a little bit more reasonable than we think.
Yeah. So we technically have like an hour and a half of our meeting time, but I'm glad we're not using it all.
Oh yeah, that's right. I keep getting tripped up by the central
but that's okay,
time.
because we can have like the Q&A just run as long as it needs to be.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of maybe going further into maybe whoever's come to talk a little bit about what they need from us or need from the group, where maybe we could spend a little bit of time and each person could just share, because this is more about past collaborations. And so if we wanted to open it up to them, like Coral, for example, said, I want to work with a writer or poet, and I'm interested in narrating performances and artifacts. And there was 2 other people, I want to say Kevin Vanek and someone, hold on.
I want to connect April with Gabrielle Loges, because I think they would work well together.
Oh, cool.
And
Oh,
Melissa
yeah.
was interested. She emailed me about it, but she didn't respond to the email that we sent. But I think that that would be a good person. And if that doesn't work out, we can connect her with Lutz. But Coral knows Lutz, so that might be a good person for her to work with to find another writer.
I was also thinking about Moab, who had reached out and was curious if there's other writers, but they might be interested in working with a visual artist. And I think her specific interest in narration is something that he's very good at with spoken word. I guess, I wrote a note that Kirsten Millett, their work kind of reminds me of Georgia B. Smith, Emily Smith, because Georgia's working on robots for their thesis, little robot toys. And then Kirsten was talking about creating like a machine. And then they also talked a little bit about
Jenny, the time is up, so I'm going to close the room.
We'll talk more.
Okay, it's going to close in 1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to open up my black cherry soda. But yeah, Georgia Smith was talking about creating toy robots, and then Kirsten was talking about machines, and then I think Jam Roar was talking about laboratories, and I was like, oh, it'd be interesting to see what they do.
It's nice that you came in. I'm like happy that you were able to join. Hi, Susan.
What did you say, Kristen? I missed it.
I was just saying I didn't get a chance to say hi to you yet.
Oh, I showed up late. I have like so much personal crap going on right now. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm here.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. So I think it's super awesome. What a great premise. So thank you for coming up with it and organizing it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the energy. I'm really glad to see you here. Great. So I hope you all had fun in your breakout rooms talking with one another. So let's share some of what
we were supposed to have note takers.
Yeah. Or just some sharing. We have a slide on the Jamboard if people want to write a couple of notes about benefits and obstacles. Another slide on the Jamboard is to help connect people to other artists if you haven't already expressed that in our meetings so far. And then another slide is for questions, but you can also put questions in the chat. So does anybody want to share maybe what some responses were from your group, from your discussion?
Sure. I've been the designated voice piece. Here we go. So we talked a lot about the different collaborations we'd had, and it was a wide variety for each of us. So we had Zazo and Kristen and I, and Zazo had collaborated with you, and she talked about that. And she talked about what a wonderful experience it was to do Salem to Salem with you starting in 2019, and that you guys were the equal partners format, that you sort of brainstormed this one idea for Alligator Dreams. So, yeah. And that you would do monthly Zoom meetings, then work independently and come back together. But what she said really made it a great success was that you were able to meet in person at the beginning of this, to really sit down and talk with each other. But that coming back together, setting goals and coming back together with deadlines was really a key component. And taking small steps and getting to know each other on a personal level, also wonderful. And then, Kristen talked about collaborating on her Fulbright in Australia, and was that second group format where she was the project lead and was receiving feedback from other collaborators, and that she really enjoyed how the project evolves with that feedback to become more representative of other artists' perspectives. And that was a really exciting format for her. But then she's also done these really intense collaborations where she's like locked in a gallery for 24 hours with other artists and found objects, create, and that format is like really intense and like a bit of an adrenaline rush. Maybe you need to pee a little bit. But that thinking about removing ownership of the artwork was a really interesting component of that collaboration. And also doing art exchange through the mail. I talked briefly about how I collaborate in a way where like I will actually just invite other artists to come into a space and talk and like change what they're doing a little bit in order to make it fit that new location. Like I did with you and Jenny, Kristen and Jenny came to Boston. Yay! Did some harder barter market. And then I also talked about like wanting to think, I think pretty logistically. I like to be that logistics person. Don't necessarily think big, but I will take a big idea and break it down into component parts. So that's like the part that I really enjoy about collaboration. Cool.
Thanks, Liz.
I can talk about our group. I took the notes. Well, I was with April and Vance and Julie, and we were kind of broke everything down with that little outline you guys had. And so April was saying that like collaboration can take us out of our kind of isolated practices, which I thought was really interesting. And then I was saying that I really liked how a piece can evolve through as you work through it with any artist by themselves or with other people. But when it's with other people, 2 or more people, then that evolution can be a little bit more organic, and you might come out with something that's completely different than what you had originally planned. And then Lance was talking about like, sometimes when he would collaborate with students, there's kind of that power dynamic. So sometimes you might have like this dysfunctional dynamics within the group. So you might want to give yourself over to the greater of the group, so that you might, and then Julie had said a little bit later, kind of something similar to that about how we have to sometimes submit some of our own egos and some of the things that we want to see happen, so that, because if it's not working with the whole group, and we did talk a lot about collaborating with people that are non-artists versus collaborating people with artists, which Julie has a lot of experience collaborating with non-artists, and Vance and April and I kind of have more, experience collaborating with other artists. And so Julie was saying that you have to really find your own language when you're not working with visual artists. Sorry, I didn't mean to say artists, but visual artists. Because they might not understand what you're doing, and you might not understand what they're doing. And so you have to kind of reach an area where you can communicate those ideas a little bit more successful in order to get your ideas out. So, and I'm going to skip past some of these. You want to definitely identify everyone's strengths and weaknesses. So we did have conversations about introverts versus extroverts. So like I was definitely an introvert when I was younger, so I kind of kept to myself and stuff like that. And so Lance was saying that maybe it's a good idea to, make sure that these people who may not want to speak out in front of a group and be put on the spot, that let them know that they can give their ideas across either via text later in an email or something. So maybe come up with other ways besides verbally talking and seeing each other and having to say stuff in the moment. Because there's people like me that need to prepare, and I always do better if I write everything out and I can think about everything. I
was just going to add, like, choosing a method of communication that works for the whole group.
Yes. Yeah. I know I'm just spouting all these out. So I'm just going to skip ahead to another one that I thought was really important when we were talking about suggestions. And Julie was really talking about, like, you need to establish norms at the beginning. So if you start getting away from a proper way to communicate with each other, or kind of getting away, you can go back to those norms and say, okay, no, we got to start doing this. So like, make sure that you're emailing each other back within 2 days, that you're respecting each other, and just having that set of norms to go back to would be very important to remind everybody if it starts to get a little chaotic throughout the thing. There was more, but I want to give other people.
Thank you so much, Stacy. So there's 2 other groups. Does anybody want to share from those other groups?
Feel free to add sticky notes right in that Jamboard if you want. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, but if you passed your turn and you thought of something, jump right in.
Isaac.
I'll go ahead and do group number 4. Benefits, pretty much basically expanding your thought process. The way of thinking, one idea gets expanded, contribute to analysis and makes the piece better. These are benefits. Mixing of the expertise. Everybody has their own expertise. So you have somebody else that's coming in looking at something, you benefit from that. Getting input and reaction right then and there, that open. So your idea, and when a person reacts to that idea, which way your idea is actually heading. If it's heading the right way. So you have that immediate feedback. It opens up creativity, and it validates the concept. Again, through the reaction of having a partner or having many partners right there immediately. So obstacles. Obstacles, agreeing on a direction can be an obstacle, making sure that you're all headed in the right direction. So it's that talking and bringing and or not agreeing. If you don't agree, it can bring a halt to the process of the project, which unfortunately later can bring to abandonment of the project. Sometimes things can get lost in the detail. You can get lost in detail. The whole project can get lost in detail because there's not enough communication. So that's definitely an obstacle, bad communication. And in this sense, with this project specifically, time and space and the difficulty of making time and making that space in the sense of, how are you going to meet? If you're going to meet with international people, getting onto that international schedule, which schedule do you meet on? The time zone difference. So those are some obstacles that were discussed. And then recommendation. We think one of the biggest recommendations we can say unanimously is communication. It's key. It will alleviate a lot of stress. People understanding or designating the roles, understanding what the process is going to be, reiterating what was mentioned earlier in the sense of going through and talking about what the process is, understanding that this whole project and collaborating is an investment. So you need to commit, not only committing to the end goal, but to the process itself of discovery, agreeing to meet in the center. And once you've agreed to meet in the center as the core mantra of the whole project, then it's hard to have an impasse that is irreconcilable. And lastly, the 2 last things is establish a timeline. So be very strategic and stick to it and believe in the democratic process.
I really love hearing from everyone. I agree with everyone's points on this. Jenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things that I think they're from our last group, but I think I'm not going to be long because there's a lot of good stuff here. But I think the benefits of collaboration are that the sum is greater than the parts. And I think that, all the shared expertise and the chance to work with people and do new things, I think is always super interesting and invigorating for my own practice. Our group was really, I think, excited about the possibilities, but kind of unclear about where we want to go yet. But I think that that's kind of interesting as well, being open to the idea. As far as recommendations, I would say that creating some sort of an open framework where there's shared ownership and responsibilities is really important to a good collaboration, and to have set check-ins with the group to make sure that things are working well or they're not, and to, like a weekly check-in or something pretty regularly to check in and see how everything's going. And we talked about obstacles kind of more so in the logistics sense, like what does that look like? How do we get the pieces there? But one thing that we talked about is that I think, sorry, my dogs are barking now. One thing that we talked about is, sorry. We talked about the possibility that if you're attached to a school, there might be a special UPS account that could save you half the cost of shipping something over there. If you don't know about that option, you could check into it. And then we talked about grants to support the projects, and also actually working remotely together on a project, like having somebody who actually can physically be closer to the location, building things or executing things, but the idea is coming from like a shared entity. So that was kind of what we talked about.
That's a really great point, Jenny. Thank you so much for talking about that, because that's one of the biggest benefits, I think, for this project, as well as one of the challenges, as Isaac talked about just a little bit ago. So logistically, delegating and figuring that out. And fortunately, there's more months on the after side of the proposal response than there are before. So coming up with the idea and then we'll try to help you as much as possible with the logistics side. And I was going to say, in terms of grants, that was part of the reason why we wanted to get this ball rolling as soon as possible, to give people as much lead time in order to crowdfund and kind of get some more funding from other sources. And one thing that's really great about this project is that you have a great impact. You can talk about the impact of this opportunity on your own practice, as well as the fact that you're working across cultures. And that's a great point to make in a grant writing process for both an institution that you may be involved in, or for places like the Rotary Club, which I know Susan Zazo is a great part of, whose mission is international exchange. You want to, Jenny and I are working on our own funding, right? As it's always that challenge of funding, but there's also lead time for you all to source and research funding sources.
Can I add to that? Can I add one additional thing to that? So I'm the vice president of the International Conference for Cast Iron right now, and our team has been awesome. We have a grant writing team who's been working on grants to support various, it's kind of a new thing. So they've done a lot of research. Liz was involved with this as well. And they've done a lot of research, and they're going to publish they have a list going of resources for artists and opportunities for funding your work, that they're going to have like a list of opportunities posted on the ICCCIA.org site. And we also, if we know early enough in advance, then Susanna and Rainey Rawls and Kathleen Studebaker are working on talking with the Goethe Institute, who would potentially support a project if we have kind of a better sense of what it involves. Then we could think about that option as well.
Well, this is super exciting. Jenny, can you go to the other side of the Jamboard? So we have a question slide, and this could be for anybody. I'll go to the one before, the one with the request for connections. So the person who wrote in green, can you just add your name to that so we know who to connect to you? But here's a great spot that you can put this request into. And yeah, we're now going to just open it up to other questions from everyone, because I think everybody's reflections about what makes a good collaboration is going to be really useful going forward. So thank you all for your great discussion and sharing all of that. So what other questions do people have about the exhibition? And because Jenny's here and Lance here representing the organization, maybe about that or the conference, which I can do my best to talk about. in my limited knowledge of the conference. Yeah, so what questions are there, if any? I'm putting a link to the conference calls and the conference website in the chat as well. We did a great job, Jenny.
I know.
You
Well,
guys did.
I have probably stupid questions, but I
No,
just
no such thing.
because I was trying to like get some information on like where the conference is so that I could kind of give an estimate. And like maybe Jenny and Lance might be able to like a projection of maybe the registration costs, but I guess you had kind of showed us where this will be. And so on that slide that you had, because I took a picture of it, is there a little, does it say where the conference will be, or is it just kind of all over like it was in Scranton, but kind of close? Or
The conference, I think, is going to be mostly at the Technical University. And then there's going to be one day, the performances are going to be at the Industrial Museum, which is in, oh my gosh, Jenny, help me out. Do you remember where the Industrial Museum is?
Volkinger, I think. Is that right? I'm not recalling the exact title off the top of my head, but it's very close to what I just said. Volkinger, I think.
I thought we had it in here. Hold on.
Yeah, it's at a place that's outside of the city. So there's one day that's not going to be in Berlin, but I think everything else is going to be at the Technical University.
okay.
But
as far as, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go.
As far as registration fees go, that haven't been announced because they're still kind of, the German team is working on that still. But I can tell you that I think that it's going to be around $150. So it's very affordable.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I know it's really great. I think Susanna has worked really hard to work with venues who aren't charging and things like that. So, and she's working through her husband's institution. And so that's a great tie-in as well, his university. And so I think it's going to be very low cost. And there's actually there'll be a discount for members as well. And we have two sites, which might be kind of confusing. We have the IKEA organization site, which we intend to keep running even post-conference, which is why we're trying to make it continuous and ongoing instead of just action every 4 years. So we've separated for the first time the organization from the conference. I mean, we're working together, of course, but we have the organization has a website and then the conference has a website, and we're linking back and forth to each other. And we're trying to create an active membership for the organization so that we can do things in the off years, that we can maybe have like workshops or exhibitions or collaborations and, kind of keep the momentum going. So yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Jenny. There's something I was going to think of. Oh, the other thing about Berlin that's really nice is it's pretty affordable. When I stayed there, lodging was cheaper than I had anticipated. Food wasn't, in terms of European cities, it's like relatively affordable.
We have another question on the Jamboard. Will images of possible installation sites be included and emailed?
Yeah, so in the information in the PDF, the images that we share today are in that. And then if you want additional images from the outdoors area, I can look back in my photos and send them if somebody's interested in different outdoor areas. Isaac, did you have a question?
Yeah, lodging are there going to be different places that's going to be recommended and, blocked and discounted and stuff? So
I believe so. Like a traditional conference, I believe that there will be. I mean, Jenny might be able to answer that more specifically than I can.
They're going to post some suggestions. They said there are a lot of different options for people to stay. They're not going to do a specific conference hotel. because they think there's a lot of affordable options and that people can do whatever fits their budget the best. But they said they will post some recommendations on the conference website. They might already be there. I know they were working on that, but I'm not sure if they're on there right now.
I'm looking right now. There's a where to stay under logistics. But I would say maybe Airbnb would be a good place to look. I think that's going to be a challenge for me with the institution, but yeah, as Stacey knows from being at an Alabama institution, they do not like Airbnb. But
They have hostels in the area too, which they mentioned. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Alabama schools are just want to go with the oldest form of everything possible. Like we're still doing POs. It's insane.
We actually have the rule about the Airbnb at UNF as well. Yeah.
Are there other questions? What are some other questions?
Someone just asked again about if there's more exhibition sites for the show besides the novella. And I think right now, no, but should there be more space needed, I believe Suzanne is going to try to work with us. So the sooner we know what the need is, the sooner we'll know if, what spaces might be available.
I do have one more question. And it's, I hope you didn't, I'm not repeating this, but I just wanted to, I'm still a little confused as to like, are you pairing us up with people?
We'll pair you if you request it. We're not going to pair people if you already have a partner in mind. If you have somebody who wasn't on this invitation list in mind, if you have an international partner in mind, we're not going to require you to be paired from this list of people. People already have ideas about who they want to write their proposal with. If you request us to be paired, let us know as soon as possible so we can connect with someone.
Kristen? Yeah, we had a couple of people who in their statement had somebody they wanted to work with, and so we want to honor that, but we also have quite a few people who applied that just want to connect with somebody else, and so we can look at what the themes and ideas are and maybe your work style and goals, and if it works out, great. If not, it's up to, we don't, the forced situation is the worst, right?
So are you getting that, like, should we put that on this board, or are you pulling that from our application?
We'll send a directory with the statements that people sent, but please, just for the sake of whoever showed up to this meeting, if you want to add to the slide number 2, that would be great. Just put your name and then a little bit about what you're hoping, who you're hoping to connect with, or what you bring to the table.
Isaac, do you have a question?
Can we add to that page at a later point, or do we need to do it right now?
We're going to keep it open because there's a lot of people who could come to this meeting too.
Okay.
So are there other international groups that collaborate with this show, or is this a closed forum?
It's an open call, so you can open this up to anyone internationally.
True,
So
but
when
so you're organizing and then showing in this space, that's just this forum, or are we one of several groups that work within?
So at the conference, there will be other exhibitions. This is one of the exhibitions that will be held.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Sabine?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there will be multiple calls for those exhibitions. They posted ideas and proposals for exhibitions. Those were due a couple weeks ago. And then they'll be asking for participation to those exhibitions and those proposals pretty shortly. I think they have a plan to launch those pretty soon.
So the link that you're going to give us that has a recording that we can share with other people that we're interested in partnering with, right?
Yes, that would be great. I'm hoping, I just want to cut out the beginning before we started the meeting and hopefully see if I can do some auto captioning. And I'll hopefully get that to everybody as a YouTube link this afternoon.
So we can basically invite anyone. If I have artist friends in Brazil, I can just include
Yes.
them in whatever project we dream up. And
Yes, amazing, Sabine. Yes.
Yeah, so in a way, this is a normal exhibition where we want people to submit proposals, but what is really exciting to us is helping to partner people if they don't have if they've never collaborated or don't have other artists in mind, and also to provide resources and support to make your collaboration successful. And so each of the pieces, the minimum requirements is we want 2 people, and I believe from 2 different countries, correct? And that iron is a part of the work. And there's some people that didn't RSVP that we know, or who we've been getting emails about, saying, oh, this would be an amazing person for this project. So even if somebody's not in this info session, for example, somebody, I believe Liz responded and April responded, we can look at those inquiries and try to connect you.
Would you consider one of the participants, if they had dual citizenship and split their time between the US and another country?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a suggestion, but
Yeah, and iron in any form. Yeah, we want it to be open. So there's going to be other exhibitions at the conference. So I think that we can be pretty open in terms of what defines iron. Photography, rust prints, performance, iron. Diversity of materials and form. Because there's these other requirements. We want to be as open as possible, especially for shipping reasons. Was that a little hand iron? Oh, it's so cute. Oh my God. Yeah, I see a question, does it have to be cast iron? I think that the conferences for contemporary cast iron art, but it, I don't, again, it's almost like splitting hairs. So I think it would be great to have cast iron pieces in it and to encourage you to work with an artist who works in that way. But it's not a hard and fast requirement that there has to be a cast iron object in the piece. Do you know what I mean, Bruna? Yeah. Did that answer people's concerns? Oh wait, sorry, Bruna, unmute.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So you so you encourage in some way to explore if to work with someone that actually the main medium is cast iron, right? Yeah, but it's not necessary at the end, basically.
Yeah, like we're not expecting every proposal to have, and then the end result will be a cast iron sculpture. It's open. It's really open. We want people to be inspired, not confined beyond those requirements.
Okay.
Like it could be a projection that includes an iron performance. It could be like a rust print, or is that like really open to the
a dance, a song, yeah, like you know what I'm trying to say.
A poem.
Yes.
A poem.
Yeah, and I think
sound piece.
Part of the inspiration behind this is I would say in the cast iron community, there's the sharing of ideas, and there are so many artists that do collaborate. And so I think that if you've never been to a cast iron conference or you've never experienced cast iron, maybe there's something to gain from working with someone in the cast iron field. But also just by participating as a whole, we'll have this amazing collection of objects. And so in a way, it's contextual based on the pairing of all these pieces together.
Yeah.
Stacey?
And I don't remember when I filled out the form, like, is there going to be like links to samples of the artist's works, or we kind of have to look that up ourselves? Or
we want to send a directory.
Yeah, we're going to put together like a PDF of people who responded to the Google form. We just didn't have time to do that before this meeting.
Right, but what I mean is there going to be like a link to their like
Social media.
social media. Okay. Okay.
And
Thank you.
then everybody gave us images, so we can also put that in the PDF. So even if they don't have a website, you'll be able to see the images that you sent, or a work sample, because a couple writers also reached out to us.
We had a person in our group who hadn't done a lot of cast iron work, and maybe there are others, but I wanted to let you know that we have an interactive map on the ICCCIA org website for pours all over the world. And so you could find a place to cast with someone else pretty easily on that map. Or if you want to add your location where you cast and share your info, you can do that too.
Awesome resource. Another resource for finding pours would be the Foundry Tree. I know that he posts pretty regularly as well, but I'm sure that it's like a very similar.
I think he's not posting there anymore because he's part of the org team and he's helping us navigate that. So I think it's now going to live on the org site.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here, Jenny. Thank you. And Lance, thank you.
I was wondering which website is it?
I can put them in the chat if you want.
Yes, great, thank you.
So there's two websites. There's the conference website and then there's the organization. So the conference website will host information about the conference, and the organization talks about it like no matter where it is. Do you know what I mean, Bruna?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Other questions? And I want to add a little note about the proposal, because we're not requiring like images of the piece at that time. You can include drawings, mock-ups, maquettes, things like that, to help us understand what it is you're proposing. We're all familiar with that as artists. Other questions?
Is there more, can you maybe give us a little bit more information of what that proposal is going to look like besides what you got, what you just said?
Do you want me to pull it up?
In the PDF, yeah, why don't you pull up the call PDF, Jenny?
Okay.
We do include the proposal guidelines for what we're looking for in it, in that one big thing we sent out to everybody. And it'll be through another Google form. You shouldn't have to have a Google account to fill it out. And I'm going to double check the form, because I realized we had to change some of it. Bye, Liz. Thank you. We did change some of the dates. And I was like, when it first went live, I didn't have included people's emails. And I was like, why didn't we include emails? So we're going to double check before we send a reminder.
I'm just pulling it up 1 second. Okay. So I just pulled up the group proposal. So it's also a Google form. I'll look through it. Is it very small, or do you want me to read it?
Hi, Isaac. Let's just briefly talk about this. This will be the last thing that we discuss, and then we can let everyone go about their day. I can read it. So a list of included artists and their roles, including a designated primary contact. A minimum of 2 artists must contribute to the work, and at least 2 countries should be represented in the makeup of your group. A statement of intent that describes the work's final form, materials, and relationship to the exhibition theme, including how it will incorporate cast iron. I mean, we could put like a bracket around cast, made by a group member, like about 2 to 3 paragraphs. Drawings, illustrations, and photo mock-ups are welcome. Types of art, just to help us with understanding the piece, like how you all see it: performance, reading, music, sculpture, wall art, installation, outdoor work, whether you want it to be indoor or outdoors, how it will be delivered, and available, well, whether you have a group member that will be there for the install or deinstall.
Just gonna scroll through. And just to clarify, so yeah, we're not going to have specific sites where people would kind of propose their piece, but if we have dimensions and the needs, then we can look and see how we can fairly space everybody out. And I think if somebody really wanted a specific site, then we would work with you to say, okay, these are very specific, like for example, the hallway, where it's a little bit of an enclosed space. So if you're an installation artist, we'll work with you. But if you're doing a wall piece or a floor piece, then we would, we can kind of arrange it.
Jenny asked in the chat how far Hilmsen was from Berlin. I'm just looking it up on Google Maps. One great thing about Germany is that they have a wonderful train system. So it's like a million times better than America. It's a 3-hour drive.
I'm just pulling up the proposal while we're talking as well. Just this is what we've been talking about that has deadlines, details, links. This is what you can find on the IKEA website under open calls. It'll say Eisenwunderwelt, and then you can download one of the versions. And this is really where all of the information lives for this project currently.
Well, again, we're really grateful to everyone for attending our info session today. It was really wonderful to see your faces and to get to talk to you about this project Jenny and I have been developing for like months now. So please let us know over email if you have other follow-up questions. You could put it in the Jamboard. We're going to be working on the directory in the next like 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to get to that to you in a little bit, just a little bit of formatting we have to go through. And yeah, just let us know also if you want to be connected sooner than that with someone over email, or you can stay. I know some people put it in the Jamboard, so we'll work on that as we're putting together these other elements. So thank you all. Really great to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Auf Wiedersehen. Vielen Dank.